This course is presented to you free of charge by TTJ Tech Services of www.ttjtech.biz and by Stir It Up of www.stiritup.com. And remember, stir is spelled with a U, not an I, so that's STURITUP.com. TTJ Tech Services and Stir It Up are pleased to offer this course to you, to the glory of God, and to the benefit of all those who listen. Well, praise the Lord. Thank you, Jesus. And welcome to our iPad for All Computing sessions once again. What I'd like to do today is I'd like to show you another aspect of the Mail app that you're going to find in many iPad apps. And we talked briefly about it, discussed it a little bit on Monday, and that is a sidebar. Many iPad apps will have sidebars. Actually, sidebars are very prevalent on Apple devices. The iPhone and the Apple Watch are the two devices that tend not to have sidebars because they're smaller devices. But Apple TV has even started having sidebars. Well, some apps have had them for a while, but more and more apps, including the native Apple TV app itself, have sidebars on Apple TV. The Mac certainly has sidebars and has had sidebars for many, many years, far predating the iPad, really. To my knowledge, there have been sidebars, if I can recall. Now, granted, I may not remember and I may be missing something, but to my recollection, when I started using the Mac all the way back at OS 10 Leopard, which was 10.5, way back in like 2009 or something, I believe there were sidebars even back then. So the Mac was the first to have sidebars, and the iPad hadn't even been released yet. And then once it had, it tended to have a tabbed view rather than a sidebar view for most of its apps. The iPad only really began to have sidebars in probably iPad OS 13, I think, if I recall correctly. But they've built on that to where many apps now have sidebars. And the idea of a sidebar is it's a vertical, you could call it a menu, or you could call it just a vertical bar that displays different options. Oftentimes, in many apps, you can show and hide the sidebar, but you may need to show it when you need to access the information that's on it. Now, the sidebar in the Mail app is interesting depending on which iPad model you have. If you have a 12.9-inch iPad Pro, the sidebar can be manually shown and hidden at any time. And you can leave the sidebar up if you want to. You can leave it showing as long as you want, and it contains the list of mailboxes that you have. But on a smaller iPad, not that they're that small, but smaller than 12.9, like the 10.9-inch iPad 10th generation or iPad Air, or I think even probably on the 10.2-inch 9th generation iPad. I don't use one of those anymore, but I think it's probably true there as well. That sidebar is a little bit different in the Mail app. When you show the sidebar, it displays the list of mailboxes, but as soon as you choose a mailbox, the sidebar automatically hides again, probably because you really need that extra screen real estate to show the messages, I'm assuming. So that is, if you don't have a 12.9-inch iPad, it's going to automatically hide. I can't speak to the 11-inch iPad Pro. I assume it's going to function like the 10.9-inch iPads because it's basically the same body, same chassis there. And so I would think that it does. I could be wrong. But definitely the 12.9, you can leave that sidebar up as long as you want. Hide it manually. There's a hide sidebar button at the upper left corner of the left-hand side of the screen. And it'll say show sidebar. When you double tap on it, it says now it becomes hide sidebar. So you can hide it again if you want to. With the other iPads, at least in the Mail app, not in every app, but in the Mail app, when you choose a mailbox, then the sidebar automatically hides again. So the Mail app uses the sidebar, I've already told you, to display the list of mailboxes that you have. And your mailboxes include the various mail accounts that are on your device. We're going to take a look at those accounts from settings today as well, because I want to show you some features there. But first, we're going to talk about mailboxes, and in a few minutes, I'm going to demonstrate this. What we have is, as you probably know, you can have multiple accounts. And I explained that on Monday, that you can have an iCloud account. And remember, even if your Apple ID, as we've talked about, is not an iCloud Apple ID, because a lot of people don't have an iCloud Apple ID to start, because you'll use an existing email address. Many people already have email, right? It's 2024. So you use whatever email you want to sign up for your Apple account, your Apple ID. And then in that case, if you decide that you want to use iCloud Mail, which I highly recommend that you do, by the way, then you can add an iCloud.com address, and you can use them interchangeably. So my Apple ID is my Comcast address, but it's also now my same username at iCloud.com. And I really actually could use other ones because I have aliases and I have domain email. I have a lot of different, I probably could use, I don't know, I have like, I forget whether it's like 9 or 10, I forget how many addresses I actually have that could be used interchangeably to sign into any Apple service. But you're typically going to have at least 2 if you use iCloud Mail, because you're going to have your one you signed up with, and then you're going to have the iCloud.com one. And the only exception to that would be if you don't have any email address when you get your Apple device, or you don't want to use any of your existing email addresses when you get your Apple device, you can immediately create a new iCloud one right away to start with, and then that would be your only Apple ID. But that's not the way most people probably will do it, because most people, as I said, do have email addresses already. So when you get that, then you'll have the option of turning on iCloud Mail. And when you turn on iCloud Mail in your settings, it's going to create an actual email address for you. It'll say, what username do you want? And if it's available, you'll be that username at iCloud.com. Okay. So that's iCloud Mail. It's easy to set up because it basically automatically sets up. All you have to do is make sure that your mail syncing with iCloud is turned on all of your devices. You don't have to know incoming and outgoing mail servers. You don't have to know port information. You don't have to know any of that. And by the way, you really don't have to know that for most email accounts now, because Apple is good at finding it for you on the device whenever you're setting it up. But especially with iCloud, you don't have to do any of that. All you have to do is turn iCloud Mail on, and it's automatically set up and it's configured, assuming you're signed in with your Apple ID. It's going to pull that information and get it going for you. So Mac, iPhone, iPad, it doesn't matter. It will all be there. And then that is one type of account that you can have. And under that account, there are mailboxes, right? Inbox, sent, junk, trash, all these things. Sometimes there are additional ones when they're needed, like outbox, things of that nature that just appear. But this is one type of account. We also said that it's possible to have other accounts on there. And I told you that I have my internet provider account through Xfinity, Comcast, on my iPad using the Apple Mail app. I also have a Gmail account set up because of having a YouTube channel and so on. And so I have a gmail.com address, and it is set up to access or to use the Apple Mail app. I don't use the Gmail app. I don't see the need, and I don't prefer the layout of the app. Similarly, if you have a Microsoft account, you don't need the Microsoft Outlook app. Now, some people will choose to use it for their own reasons, and that's certainly fine. But it is entirely possible to set up just about any kind of email account through the Mail app. You actually set it up in settings. I'm going to show you that today. But it's definitely easy and doable. And in most cases, as I said, you won't even need server information. So all you have to do is your name, your email address, and the password. You have to have your email password, certainly. Each of these accounts has its own mailboxes, like inbox, sent, junk, outbox, trash, all these different things. And some have additional ones that you may not recognize that may be specific to a particular email provider. But still, you'll have these mailboxes. In addition to all of that, you can organize your mail more effectively by creating your own mailboxes and by enabling smart mailboxes. Now, smart mailboxes are really probably the simplest way to organize things because they already exist. You don't have to create them, and they can gather information from and across all of your accounts. You just have to turn them on. And it is a per device thing. So it's not going to sync. Um, when you turn them on one device, you're still going to have to go into another device and turn them on also if you want them, right? Okay. The contents will sync, but assuming you have the same accounts signed in and set up, but the actual mailboxes being turned on, you have to do that on each device. And so these automatically exist for you. They just may not be on right now. These are things like today, to show all of the messages that you have received today. And I don't think it's like, I don't, it's either past 24 hours, or what I actually think it is based on the date. So anything that's come today. There's a smart mailbox called attachments. You can turn that on. It can be very helpful because it's like, oh, I know I got a message from Cliff when he sent me this file that I was supposed to look over. Well, where is that file? Well, certainly I could search for messages from Cliff, but then there'd be a lot of other messages that don't have attachments too. So if I turn on the smart mailbox called attachments, now I can see everything that has attachments. There's another one that I like. It's called unread, and so that shows you just all of your unread messages. Another one that I'm a big fan of is flagged, because you can flag messages that are important to you. And the default when you use the voiceover rotor to do it is an orange flag, but actually you can choose the color if you go through the longer way of flagging a message. But either way, you actually get a flag on this message, and it indicates that that message is important to you to save it. A lot of people want to know, how can I save my messages? And what they're kind of thinking is that they want to save them outside of the mail app. Well, that really doesn't happen on iPad. You can save attachments outside of the mail app, certainly. But with the mail itself, unless you're going to copy and paste the body of the message into something else, you're really not going to save an entire email message outside of the mail app. But you can keep them in the mail app as long as you want, and you can flag the ones that are especially important to you. And that's what I like to do whenever I have a message that I know I need to come back to. I know I need to respond to this message for work, or there's something for the family, like we purchased our Hershey Park season passes just before Christmas around that time, but you can't really do anything with them until March. We're actually going to go get them activated here in a couple of weeks. Praise God. And so, when you do, so I flagged the message with the order confirmation and all of that, so that, when it was time, I'd easily be able to go back and find it. So flagged, that's a very useful smart mailbox. So I'm going to show you how to turn some of these on. And I'm also going to show you that in the same place where you turn them on, there is an option to reorder them. And furthermore, in the same place where you do that is an option to create your own new mailbox. You can create a mailbox. You can call it anything you want. And when you create it, you have the option of choosing what email account that mailbox gets created under, assuming you have multiple accounts. And so this is it's a very easy way to organize your email. Once you have created mailboxes, you can actually do what Trainer Cliff does, and you can take it a step further. You can set up mail rules so that automatically, when you receive a message with a particular subject in it, or from a particular sender, or what have you, those messages are going to go in automatically to a special mailbox that you've created. So maybe I want all the messages from TTJ to go into a special folder. But maybe it's not just a TTJ folder, maybe it's a technology folder. So I also, not only do I want TTJ messages, but I want any messages that have the word iPad or Apple or, these kinds of things to go into a tech mailbox. Maybe I have a mailbox for recipes. And so I'm going to have, multiple things here. I'm going to have a rule that says, if it comes from Food Network, if it comes from Epicurious, if it comes from All Recipes, those are all going to go into my recipes folder. But so too are messages that have a subject line with the words recipe or delicious or dinner or cooking or food, right? So then we automatically can have these go where we want them to go. So there are options for that, and I'm going to show that to you a little bit. I'm also going to show you where you can create aliases. We talked a little about aliases on Monday, but not a tremendous amount. These are everybody gets, I think, 3 of them you can have at iCloud.com. So you've created your primary Apple ID and your subsequent iCloud.com version of that. Maybe John Smith at iCloud.com, whatever, right? Okay, and now you want to create something else that is underneath that. It is your own, another custom email address at iCloud. So you can have 3 aliases. They're all going to come to the same email address, but you'll be able to give a different address to people. And then you also can create custom domain email. That takes a little more work. Plus, you have to purchase a domain, but it's really not incredibly hard. And it's a great way to have your own actual domain. In other words, instead of John Smith at iCloud.com, it's you can have like John. You can, well, let's say like info at johnsmith.com or something. Okay, you can have your own domain. That's the second part of the after the at is the domain. And so that's another thing I'm going to show you where those settings are located so that you can see them.
Mail 179 unread emails. Double tap to app shelf mail.
And we'll
app
see.
Shelf mail toolbar checking for mail 0%.
You remember that? That's the bottom left of the screen. I always like to use that because it helps me to know when my message has been sent, when the undo send delay is still on. Remember, I showed you that we can have a delay, or not a delay. We can have an undo if we forgot something or what have you. We have 30 seconds. Well, I have 30 seconds. The default is 10, but you can set it for up to 30. So I've changed it to 30.
Updated just now, 184 unread.
The other thing I forgot to tell you the other day about sending, well, maybe I told you, but I didn't show you. When you long press a message, when you long press a, well, there's a lot of different long presses in here. If I long press on a message,
messages unread, trip hound, Portugal. Reply button.
I get a context menu.
Reply all. Forward. Open a new window. Mark. Notify me. Mute. Move message. Trash message. Block sender. Dismiss contact.
I might have shown you that, but what I'm pretty sure that I didn't show you was the long press of the send button. If we compose something.
Picture. Mail. Picture. Screen recording. Mail from Nathan. Mail 232. T.O. from compose button. To text field is editing.
And let's just compose something here real quick.
K.
To Trainer Cliff.
K-L-I. Dismiss to add to heading results. Clifton Antonio Miller's. Click and dodgeable subject text field. Insertion cap T at T test at subject message content insertion point at start cap G I hi ain period again.
I just said hi again to Trainer Cliff. This send button. If I long press it instead of just double tapping it or tapping it without voiceover, what I get.
Send now button. Send 9 p.m. tonight button. Send 8 a.m. tomorrow button. Send later button. Dismiss context menu button.
And send later would allow me to choose my own custom time to send it. So you can schedule these. I think I did tell you that, but I didn't show it to you. So you can schedule them to send later. Let's go ahead and send it now.
Send now button. Message content. Hi Matt.
And again, remember that.
Toolbar. Undo send button.
There it is. I can double tap that. That's on the status bar at the bottom left of the screen, the toolbar. It says undo send. I have 30 seconds in which to double tap that if I want to not send it. Again, the default is 10 though, but I've changed that. So I have 30 seconds. Eventually that's going to go away. And when it does, then we'll know the message has officially been sent. So I like to watch it just for fun, but you don't really have to. But it'll go away here momentarily. And that's the there we go. Okay. All right. Praise God. And now that's out. So it's done. Now, what I really wanted to show you today, though, was the mailboxes. We're going to go to the upper left of the screen, left-hand side.
Show sidebar button.
And we're going to show that sidebar. And that's going to bring up our list of mailboxes that we already have chosen to have on the sidebar.
Show sidebar. Mailboxes. Heading.
Now notice,
Edit button.
there's an edit button up there. There would be a hide sidebar button if we had the larger iPad because, again, we can manually show and hide it. In this 10.9-inch iPad, we don't have to manually hide it. It's going to hide itself once we select a mailbox. But you'll notice that at the upper left there is an edit button.
Edit button.
And that is not to be confused with the edit button in your mailbox itself. If you remember, I think I showed you that when I was in all inboxes, that's where I like to be. That's the universal inbox that has the messages from every account that I have. There's an edit button in any of your mailboxes as well that lets you multi-select your messages if you want to move 8 or 10 messages at the same time or delete them all at once, and I told you about that. This edit button here is not to be confused with that. This is the edit button for your mailbox list. The list of mailboxes can be edited, and we're going to show that to you. That's how you turn on your smart mailboxes and so on. But let's take a look at what's already here, because I've turned a lot of them on, and you may have some, or at least your accounts are here. You can expand and collapse each section, and when you collapse it, then it's not going to show its contents to you. So let's go to the right.
Mailboxes. Heading. Selected. All inboxes. 185 unread messages.
And you hear that it's selected. And I can deselect it, and it's not going to
Comcast. 173 unread messages.
show up. But these are the inboxes now. Comcast,
Gmail,
iCloud.
12 unread messages.
If we keep going,
VIP.
that's another mailbox we can open up to view that.
Flagged. 212 unread messages.
There's my flagged mailbox that I told you about, which I really like to use. That's a smart mailbox.
Unread. 185 unread messages. Attachments. No unread messages. Thread notifications. Remind me. Follow up. No unread message. Send later. Today. 85. All drafts.
These are all mailboxes that I've turned on. They're all smart mailboxes. VIP, follow up, remind me, today, attachments, unread, all sent.
All sent. All drafts.
All drafts.
All trash.
All trash. That way I don't have to go into each account to find the trash or the sent messages if I need them. So I've turned those on. They're smart mailboxes. And then if we keep going.
Comcast. 173 unread messages. Button. Expanded.
Now you heard expand. And it's a double tap to collapse. And there are actions apparently too.
Collapse content. Activate.
Okay.
Default.
Just another way to do that. But if you double tap it, it will collapse also. This is not the Comcast inbox. This is the Comcast account. And it's expanded so I can see the mailboxes.
Inbox. Drafts. Sent. Junk. Trash. Deleted messages. Sent messages. Gmail. No unread messages.
Now,
button. Expanded.
There's the Gmail account.
Double tap to collapse.
It's also
Swipe
expanded.
Up or down. Inbox. Drafts. Sent. Junk. Trash. All mail. Gmail. Important. Starred. Gmail. Trash. iCloud. 12 unread messages.
And
button.
then
Expanded.
here's iCloud.
Double tap to collapse. Inbox. Draft. Sent. Junk. Trash. Archive. Edit. Button. All inboxes. Heading. Search. Dictate.
What has happened?
Messages.
Well,
Unread.
I'll tell you what's happened.
All inbox. Edit. Button.
We've crossed over the sidebar and gone to the main mailbox that we've already got selected, which in this case is all inboxes, and so there's another edit button there. Not for the mailboxes now, but for the particularly selected mailbox. But I want to go back
Sent.
to the top.
Mailboxes. Mail. Edit. Button.
And I want to choose this edit option because I want to show you how you can turn on mailboxes. Where we are right now is just on the sidebar, and whatever we have selected is what's turned on. Excuse me, that was misleading. That was very misleading. I apologize. Whatever we have selected is what we're viewing. It's not turned on or turned off. It's whatever is selected is what we are currently viewing. And you see that because I have all inboxes selected.
All mail. Draft. Inbox.
Let me go back here.
All sent. Thread note. Attach. Flat. VI. iCloud. Gmail. Selected. All inboxes. 185 unread messages.
So you hear that that's selected, and that's all inboxes. And I wanted to see.
Follow. Send later.
Okay, that's send later. That's right. That's where they go if you're gonna schedule them or what have you. But you heard that all inboxes is selected. So whatever you've selected in the sidebar is what is showing its contents. And if I were to double tap all inboxes again,
Gmail.
what it's gonna do
Selected. All inboxes.
is
185 selected. All inbox. Show sidebar button.
it just hides the sidebar then. So once you double tap whatever you want to view, it hides the sidebar for you, at least on the smaller iPads, not on the larger one. So that's very simple and very easy. That's how you select whichever mailbox you want to view at the time. But if you want to turn some of them on so that they appear in the sidebar, here's what you have to do.
Show sidebar.
Show the sidebar and go to
heading.
Edit under Mailboxes.
Edit button. Done.
Now you notice that Edit becomes done.
Mailboxes. Mail done. Button.
And if we go to the right,
selected. All inboxes. 180. Reorder all inboxes. 101 unread messages. Button.
Okay.
Draggable. Double tap and hold. Wait for the sound. Then drag to rearrange.
Now, since this is not a voiceover class, I won't go into all that, but you know you can do exactly what it says. Double tap, hold, and drag with one finger to reorder the position of this mailbox up or down. It's already as high as it can go, but it could go down. And there may be...
Toolbar.
Okay, there are not. Some of those reorder handles also have actions in the rotor, like move up, move down. This one does not appear to, so you do have to hold on this one to drag it. And of course, our sighted users, same thing. Just tap and hold on it and drag instead of double tap. But it's the same concept. So you can move these mailboxes so that they have a different order if you want.
Selected. Comcast.
Notice that...
Reorder all inboxes. Selected. Comcast. Reorder. Selected. Gmail. Selected. iCloud. Reorder iCloud. 2 unread messages.
And I never moved that up. I could actually move it up.
Double tap.
So it appears higher, but...
Selected. VIP.
Now look.
Reorder. Selected. Flagged. Selected. Unread. 186 unread
That's
messages.
where my smart mailboxes are coming from.
2 or CC.
I don't have 2 or CC turned on. If I wanted to have that appear in the sidebar also, I just double tap it to select it. Tap it, of course, without voiceover.
Reorder to or CC. Selected. Attachments.
Attachments is selected.
Reorder. Selected. Thread notification. Selected. Remind me. Selected. Follow up. No unread messages.
Most of these are selected.
Selected. Send later. Muted threads.
There's one that's not. Muted threads. I could select that. If I've muted a thread so I don't get notified every time somebody replies to it, I can view only the messages in the muted threads. I could turn that one on. I don't really use that, so I've not turned it on. But you see how simple that is, that you just double tap a message to, double tap a mailbox to turn it on when you're in the edit mode. And of course, you could double tap it again to turn it off. Now I want to go clear down to the bottom left of the screen on the left-hand side.
Toolbar. New mailbox button.
And there's my new mailbox button. And when I double tap that, what it's going to give me the option to do is to manually name a mailbox and choose the account. Let's take a look.
Text field is editing. Name. Insertion point at start.
We're already in the name field.
Use the rotor to access misspelled words.
If I go to the left,
save. Dimmed button.
There's the save button. Can't do that yet because I haven't named it.
New mailbox. Heading. Cancel button.
And there's cancel. But over here,
save.
to the right,
text field. Mailbox location. Heading. Mailbox location button.
And that's where
undo.
We're gonna choose what account that mailbox is under. So mailbox location, then we name it and then
text
save. But I'm just going to hit cancel because I'm not going to create any right now. When you're done,
mailboxes done button.
You're going to hit done.
Edit.
So now, whenever I have a message that I want to put in a particular mailbox, I can move it. And you heard move. When you long press a message in the list, it actually will give you the move option. And
edit selected all inboxes.
I think it might be in the rotor too.
All inboxes.
Let's see.
Show sidebar message mark flag more red layer, drag up delete.
Yeah,
activate,
it is in the rotor, but it's under more. You have to choose more if you want to see move.
Mark flag more. Trip pound. This closed. Reply all. Forward. Trash message. Remind me. Flag. Mark as read. Move message.
Yeah, there it is. It's under the more option in the rotor. Okay.
Message content. Hi, Matt.
So that's the
Swipe up or down to select.
that is how we create mailboxes. That's how we show and hide mailboxes, including smart mailboxes, and that's how we can view. That's what's on the sidebar. Now, I do want to show you the settings, and I want to show you some of your mail settings that might be of interest to you. I'm not going to go through all of them because that would take a long time, but I want to show you some of them, especially the ones that relate to what I talked about with you today, like the mail rules creation and things of that nature. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to leave the mail app here.
Doc, mail, set new settings.
And we're going to go into settings.
Mail, heading.
And there it is. And it says to us,
allow mail to access, heading. Syrian search, button.
And then we can customize those settings.
Notifications, banners, sounds, badges, button.
Now it tells us what kinds of notifications we're going to receive. I want to point out that you can have a different sound for each account, and in many cases for different mailboxes you can even have different sounds. But those have to be set up. You can go to settings, notifications, and then down to the list of apps and choose mail. And at the very bottom there's an option that says customize notifications. And there you can turn on sounds for individual mailboxes, individual inboxes even. I have a different, well, actually I don't. I don't think I do. I think I have the same sound for each of my, iCloud, Comcast, and Gmail accounts. But theoretically, you could have a different sound for each if you wanted.
Notifications, cellular data, switch button, on.
Of course, that's important if we have
tap to toggle setting.
An iPad with Wi-Fi plus cellular, which is that do we want to use, allow this app to work on a cellular network?
Accounts, 3, button.
All right, so here's where we have our accounts, and we'll come back to that in a moment. That's where we can add new accounts. I've got 3 of them, which is what I told you, iCloud, Comcast, and Gmail. But you can add accounts there. You can modify your accounts. That's where that's done. Now, we'll just show you some of these other.
Message list, heading, preview, 2 lines, show to /cc, swipe options, messages, heading.
As I said, I'm not going to go through all this, but
ask before, privacy, follow up suggestion,
I wanted
privacy protection, button.
That's a good one. Privacy protection allows you to sort of remain when somebody sends you a message, especially some of these like companies and telemarketers and so on, and they send you advertising, they can tell when you've opened the message because it sends back like a little, I don't know if it's like a cookie or what it exactly is, but it sends them back a little confirmation of when you've read their message, unless you enable privacy protection. That's an iCloud feature, and I highly recommend it. I think it's on by default, too. All right, let's see what's next.
Follow up suggestions, switch button, on.
Yeah.
Double tap to toggle setting.
I like that because that tells me, it displays messages that maybe somebody emailed me or I emailed somebody else and neither one of us has replied in a while, so it maybe we want to follow up with that person, so that shows up. I like that.
Threading, heading.
Definitely I like threading.
Organized by thread, switch button, on. Collapse read messages, switch button, on.
Yep.
Most recent message on top, switch button, off.
Now I go from
double tap to toggle setting.
Now, please understand that's specific to threading. Sometimes people think they can change that and it will display the whole list of messages differently. Now, this has specifically to do with the threads.
Complete threads, switch button, on. Muted thread action, blocked sender options, move to trash, button.
If I block a sender, where does it go? It goes to the trash.
Blocked, button. Composing,
I can look at my list of blocked. All right, composing.
Always BCC my mark addresses. Increase quote level. Include attachments with replies. Add link previews. Signature. Sent from my iPad. Button.
There's where we can customize signatures. And by the way, you can have a different signature for each mail account.
Default account. iCloud. Button.
What's the default account that it's going to send from if you don't specify or if it doesn't have any other reason to change it?
Messages created out. Sending. Heading.
Now here's where we have that send delay.
Undo send delay. 30 seconds. Button. Undo send
okay.
delay.
So those are some of the options that I like. Again, I didn't go through every one and explain it to you, but they're all there. I want to go to accounts, though. I want to actually...
Complete threads. Mail. Heading. Allow mail. Zoom. Site accounts. 3. Account mail. Back button.
And you're going to see now.
Accounts. Accounts. Heading. iCloud. iCloud Drive. iCloud. Gmail. Mail. Calendars. Comcast. Mail. Button.
Now, this is important because you can turn on and off different features. Like if you listen to iCloud.
iCloud. iCloud Drive. iCloud Mail. Contacts. Calendars. Safari. Reminders. Messages in iCloud. Notes and 4 more. Button.
I have a lot of stuff turned on for iCloud, right? But now listen to the next one.
Gmail. Mail. Calendars. Button.
I only have mail and calendars turned on. I'm not going to get into an in-depth explanation of this, but I can't even tell you how many customers and students come to us and say, my mail is not syncing. Or maybe it's not even mail. It's typically like, my calendar is not syncing. What do you mean your calendar's not syncing? Well, I have this event on my iPad, but it's not showing up on my iPhone. And the first thing we always look at when they do that is, do you have something other than iCloud that is allowed to use its calendar feature? And almost every time, in fact, I might even say every time without exception. I don't like to say something that's strong unless I'm sure, but I'm pretty sure every time without exception, the problem has been that they have some other type of account that's also using calendars, and they don't realize it. And so what happens is, let's say that they have Gmail also set up to use its calendars. So what they're doing is they're adding an event to the calendar on their iPad, and it's going to Gmail instead of iCloud, but they don't have that same setting on their iPhone, so that's why it's not syncing. I always tell people, just use iCloud for everything. And then if you have to add other mail accounts like Gmail, when you add it, turn everything off except mail. Turn off calendars, turn off notes, turn off all of that stuff, and leave on only mail, except on your iCloud account. Now you might say, but I just heard calendars turned on your device. Well, the reason I have calendars turned on, I don't use Gmail, but we do have a couple smart displays that are Nest displays, which of course are Google. And so my thinking initially was that sometimes I might want to put something on the family calendar and actually have people see it on the display. Well, in order to do that, you have to turn on Google for calendars. So I have it on, but praise God, I know how to work with it. I know how to look and see which calendar things are going to go on. We'll teach you that when we look at the calendar app, but I know how to do that already, so I don't run into that problem. I know it's the same on all of my devices, so it's okay. Because if you know what you're doing, you can do that. And sometimes people have to, because maybe for your job, you need Google Calendars or something. So or Outlook, So if you have to do it, then just make sure you learn how to work with it, and then that's fine. Now, what has turned out to be the case is that I almost never use that anyway. So maybe one of these days I'll go in and turn off Google Calendars because I don't use them. I probably put one thing on the display since the time I enabled that setting because typically we just use our other devices, HomePods, iPhones, and it's iCloud is where we want it. So I always put things on the iCloud family calendar, not the Google one. So as I say, I might end up turning that off. But you heard that I have it. But anyway, if we pick one of these accounts, we get a lot more information about the settings for that account. But if we go to iCloud, this is what I want to show you.
iCloud. What accounts? Back button. Apple ID. Heading.
It's actually now taken us to the same place that we would have gone had we gone to settings and just tapped on our name.
Button. Matthew and Hurt. Sign in and payment in iCloud. 4 terabytes.
So if we wanted to modify our iCloud mail settings, we could have done it that way. Instead of going to settings and mail, we could have gone to settings and our name. But I wanted to show you some of those other account things too. But now we're in where our Apple ID information is. So you can get that also by going to settings and then tapping on your name.
Media and purchases. Find my family sharing.
Okay, but I'm going to go now.
iCloud. 4 terabytes. Button.
Let's actually keep going first.
iPad. Basement.
I'm going to see. No, that's it. That's it. Never mind.
Find
Okay.
Media and iCloud.
iCloud.
Apple ID, back button.
And I want to now show you that we go to mail this way. This is different. Again, you could have gone here by going to settings and tapping on your name, and you'd then tap on iCloud, and you're going to see mail listed under here among a lot of other things.
iCloud Plus, manage account storage. iCloud Plus, 1.4 terabytes of 4 terabyte used, photos, 12% docs.
Okay.
3 iCloud, head.
So iCloud Plus.
Sparkle, close button.
Now,
recommended for you. Turn on apps using iCloud. Heading, photos, on iCloud Drive, iCloud Mail, on button.
Notice that's a button. It's not a toggle switch because that means there's going to be more options under iCloud Mail.
Select settings, heading.
Let's look at them. On
settings,
the
heading.
right side of the screen still.
Mail settings icon, image, iCloud Mail. Use your existing iCloud Mail account on this iPad or set up a free opening double quotation mark at iCloud.com email address.
That's what I've told you
Learn
about.
more, link.
Okay.
Use on this iPad, switch button, on, account information, heading, default email, and addresses, 9, button.
Addresses 9. So I can modify.
Auto reply, off, addresses, select, settings, heading.
Now all my addresses are here.
Shop, support, pastor Matt at startup.com, custom email domain, button.
Some of them are custom email domains, and then
aliases, space,
look,
aliases, heading.
Aliases. Okay, these are the aliases at iCloud that I've created.
Add alias, button.
I can add another one because I only have 2.
An email alias is an alternate email address.
Okay.
By default, messages sent to an alias will appear in your primary inbox.
All right.
Aliases can't be changed, transferred, or converted to primary accounts.
I could not have explained that any better.
More,
and it said I have 2 of 3 aliases.
Use the rotor to access links.
You heard it say I have 2 of 3 aliases there. I could not have explained that any better myself, okay? That perfect explanation of it. Listen to it again.
An email alias is an alternate email address. By default, messages sent to an alias will appear in your primary inbox. Aliases can't be changed, transferred, or converted to primary accounts. You have 2 of 3 aliases. Learn more, link.
Okay.
Use the rotor and email alias.
And that's all we have there. Now, up at the top,
addresses, heading, help at the
these are all the email addresses that we have.
iCloud Mail, back button.
And there's another place that you can go, which I'll show you in a minute, to create your custom domains. But let's go back.
iCloud addresses, 9, button. Auto reply, off. iCloud Mail rules, off, button.
iCloud Mail rules. I want to talk about this a little bit. iCloud Mail rules are what I said to you before that you could set up to have messages automatically come to a particular mailbox if they're, if they contain certain words in the subject or if they have a certain sender. So let's look at these. They're off. I don't use them. And if I get something wrong here, Trainer Cliff can lambast me for it after I unmute him in a little bit. But let's just look at these.
Selected settings, heading.
Now notice it wants to go to that left side of the screen. It says settings, heading. So if I were to start swiping right.
Search field.
See, I'm on the left, but I know I just lift up and
add rule,
touch the right. Okay.
Edit, dimmed, button.
We could edit, but there are none to edit.
Rules, heading.
And here's
iCloud Mail, back button.
Our back button. All right, let's go to the right.
Edit, add rule, button.
There's an add rule button.
Only the first matching rule will be applied to each message as it arrives. It may take a few minutes for changes to take effect.
Okay.
Only add rule, button.
Let's look at these options.
Activate to dismiss pop-up window, button.
All right.
Cancel, button. Add rule, heading. Done, dimmed, button. Rule name, text field.
Rule name.
Double tap to edit.
Now.
Message is from, button.
Is from.
Name or email address, text field.
And then you can choose
double tap to edit.
A name or an email address there that if the message is from that.
Action.
And then the action.
Move to folder, button.
It gets moved to a certain mailbox or folder.
Folder.
And there you go.
Choose /setup, button.
So let's look at this a little more in depth.
Choose
this button.
Name or email is from, button.
Is what's currently selected. If I choose this, it's going to give me other options. It's like an if-then kind of sequence. You ever do logic? If this happens, then that is supposed to happen. That's really what this is. So the trigger is, right now, it's set to if the message is from.
Message.
See? Message
is from.
But if we double tap this.
Selected is from.
That's what's selected right now. But it's not the only choice here.
Is addressed to. Button.
Is addressed to.
Is CC'd to. Button. Is addressed or CC'd to. Button. Has subject containing. Button. Has listed containing. Button. Dismiss context menu.
Look at all those options. Remember I told you if the subject contains the word recipe or technology, Apple, whatever. So any of these options you can choose. And you'd have to, if you want it to be more than one thing, you have to create more than one rule. But remember, it's going to use the first rule that applies to that message. It said that to us a moment ago. But you can create multiple rules. But this one, you have to choose one of these options. Is from, is addressed to, subject contains, whatever you want. So we'll dismiss that. We left it on
message.
The
rule name
is from. So what's going to happen now is this edit field pertains to that choice. Is from, it's going to have a name or an email address. If we had subject contains, it would have an edit field to type what the subject must contain. In our case, we left it on is from, so it's going to be
name or email address. Text field.
So if the message is from, I can put a contact name, I can put an email address. If the message is from info@ttjtech.biz, if the message is from support@stiritup.com, whatever I want to put here is from. Again, we could have changed the trigger, but I left it there. So if it's from whatever, then, now here's the action.
Action.
Okay? The action is going to be, by default,
move to folder button.
Move to folder, and then to the right of that, you're going to have a place where you can choose or create a folder.
Folder.
See?
Choose/setup button.
Choose or set up. So we have to choose the folder that we want it to move to. Now we could look at these other options.
Move to folder button. Selected. Move to folder. Move to trash button. Forward to button. Mark as read button. Move to folder and mark as read button. Move to trash and mark as read. Forward to an email address and mark as read. Dismiss context menu.
So you can picture
activate
some of those options, right? Certainly move to folder makes sense because, again, that's like putting it in a mailbox. But maybe you instead want it to go to the trash. Maybe you get messages all the time from such and such a place, and you've tried to unsubscribe and it's just not been successful. You've used Apple's built-in auto unsubscribe option, where at the top of it says, at the top of a message, this message is from a mailing list. To unsubscribe, click here. That's an Apple thing, and it usually works, but for whatever reason, this time it didn't work for you. You tried the manual method of directly unsubscribing, and that didn't work for whatever reason. So you just are tired of it. You just want any message from such and such a company to go right to the trash. So you could pick that option. Maybe you want to forward it. Maybe you want it to be forwarded to a different email address or another person or something of that nature. I'm going to forward any... I could even set this up. Like I'm thinking, Trainer Cliff and I each have our own business, but we often work together as well. And he's the primary guy when it comes to Mac, and I'm the primary guy when it comes to iPad. So I could set up a rule if I so desired that if it had the subject line Mac training, it automatically got forwarded to Trainer Cliff or something like that. I mean, there's so many possibilities here of what you can do with these mail rules, and we've just barely scratched the surface. But that's how you create them, and we'll go over here.
Activate to dismiss pop-up window. Add rule button.
So I've not done any.
Add rule. Edit. Dim. iCloud Mail. Back. iCloud,
we'll go back.
iCloud Mail rules.
And
Mail settings icon. iCloud Mail. Heading. iCloud.
Back again.
iCloud Plus. 1.4 terabyte.
And now I want to tap on iCloud Plus because I want to show you if you have iCloud Plus, that's what you need in order to have custom email domains.
iCloud Plus. 1.4 terabytes of 4 terabyte used. Photos. 12% manage account storage button. Sparkle. Do more with iCloud. Free up storage. Review recommended settings and learn more about iCloud.
Okay.
Close, but recommended for you. Turn on.
So I can turn on private relay.
Apps using iCloud.
See, those kinds of things.
Manage account storage button.
But go to the right here.
Apps, photos, iCloud Drive, iCloud Mail, passwords and keychain on. Show all button. Device backups heading. iCloud backup. iCloud Plus heading.
And look at under iCloud Plus now. I want to show you this.
Private relay off button.
Okay. Private relay is kind of like a VPN. Maybe that's a bit oversimplistic, but it's kind of like a VPN. It works with Safari, so it hides your IP address. It lets you select an alternate location, even like some people do that. That it's like a built-in VPN, but you have to have iCloud Plus in order to get it.
Hide my email button.
Hide my email is something that when you are creating an account with a company or subscribing to an email newsletter, or even anytime you're sending an email, you can choose hide my email and it's going to generate a random email for you. That's always available. Okay. And I should have shown you how to actually use that while you're composing a message. Maybe I'll go back and do that. But that's another feature that's available to you.
Custom email domain button.
And there's custom email domain. And that is where we can choose to create a new custom domain, which we would have to purchase. If we purchase it right here in the Apple settings, it's going to be purchased through a company called Cloudflare. Very reasonable prices, but still you do have to purchase it. It's not, you don't get custom domains included with iCloud Plus. You get support for custom domains, right? But you have to purchase the domain on your own. You can purchase it here through Cloudflare, or if you already have a custom domain that you own, like if you have a website with a web host or something, you can use that domain. But I will caution you that you're going to need to do some advanced settings configuration. They're going to ask you for. They're going to give you some codes that you have to go to your domain registrar and input those codes in a certain place, and that can vary depending on the web host. It's not hard. It's doable. I've done it a couple times, praise God, and it works. But it is what I would consider a bit of a more advanced feature, definitely. But the conditions for using it are you have to have iCloud Plus, number one, and then you have to either own or purchase a custom domain.
Heading accounts. Back button.
We went a long way
Selected. Mail.
because I wanted to show you the mail account settings first under settings and mail. You could have gone directly to settings and your name and iCloud to get those iCloud mail settings for mail rules, for custom domains, and for what was the other thing I showed you under there? There was something else. Oh, aliases, yeah. So you could have done that by going to settings and your name and iCloud. We went the other way because I also wanted to show you where you modify the other mail accounts that you may have on your device.
Add account button.
And that's where you add
Comcast, Gmail, iCloud.
See?
Accounts. Heading.
And I'm going to
Accounts. Heading.
go back.
Mail. Back button.
Now I'm
mail.
back at settings
Selected.
and mail.
Mail. Message list. Heading.
Okay, there's settings and mail. Let me show you how to hide my email real quick. When you are filling out a form on a website or something to subscribe to an email list or to create an account or something, if you look above your on-screen keyboard, like above the letters U, I, and O, where that quick bar often is with autofill and predictions and so forth, it will have the choice to hide your email there. Hide my email will be one of the options. But I also want to show you that if you're composing a message in the Mail app,
Mail 186.
we'll hit compose
Mail.
here.
Picture in picture. Screen recording and mail from more.
I always
compose button.
Okay.
To text field is editing.
So we have the
Insertion
to field,
point at
which
start.
this is where we type our to
Swipe
or
up or down.
there we go. This is where we type our to recipient or selected from a list of contacts or what have you. But I want you to look at the CC BCC from. Remember we did that the other day, but I didn't go all the way down to show you that hide my email is actually there as well.
CC/BCC from.
So I have to double tap.
Double tap to show more info. CC.
Now go over to
text
from.
BC from and Dodgeable bread.
And I want you to look all the way down. Got a lot of email addresses.
Help support at info at hide my email. Create a random address that forwards to your inbox button.
So I could, on the fly, create a hide my email. And I don't know. I've not heard of any limit to the number of them that you can create. There may be a soft or hard limit somewhere, but I suspect it would be up in the thousands. I don't know. I really have no idea. And there probably is Apple support documentation to say whatever the limit is, if there is one, but I've not looked, I must admit. But as far as I know, there's nothing, in the near future that would impact you there. So you can just choose hide my email if you want it to come from a random email address. And you say, well, how do I know what that email address is? Well, you don't really need to, because when people receive the message and reply to it, it'll come to your normal email, and you don't have to give it to anybody else because it's a one, like, per account, per app, per website use thing. But if you do want to know what it is, you can go into your iCloud settings and you can look up all of the ones that you have created. So that is hide my email. And that's a nice thing to know. And we'll get out of that.
New message. Send. Can't. To. Tap. New message. Cancel. Cancel.
Okay.
Message content.
And I'm not even given the option to save or delete the draft because I didn't even type anything in there yet, so I hadn't even really started. The mail rules that we are creating, when specifically we dealt with rules now, that not the mailboxes themselves. You can put them in any account, but the mail rules are specific to mail that comes to iCloud.com. The mail rules that you create with those if and then, the action and the trigger and the action, those are specific to email that comes to your iCloud.com address. If you want to set up mail rules, say for Gmail, for example, for messages that come to your Google account at gmail.com, you're going to have to go to Gmail to do those rules. And they can be done there. And probably most other internet providers, I shouldn't really say that definitively, but I would think they probably do support some forms of behaviors or rules or things of that nature. I want to say Gmail doesn't even call them rules. Cliff would know. But I think it's another term besides rules. But yeah, it's very specific to, in this case, iCloud, those rules.
But yeah, filters, it's called filters on Gmail. And I would caution people with Gmail because you got to play with those a little bit. On iCloud, it's a little bit more straightforward, from, to, subject line, keywords. Gmail, they kind of make you play around with it a little bit because you can say from and it'll go to, and it won't even do it. And then you have to go back and you have to say to. Yeah, it's a little touchy. I don't use Gmail for nothing except YouTube anyway, so I don't even care.
I have a question for you, Cliff, because I don't know the answer to this because I don't do it. And then I'm going to ask you, too, if I missed anything or how I did with the presentation there. But my first question for you, because I don't know the answer, if I set up one of those mail rules, like if a message is from such and such a sender, move it to such and such a folder or mailbox, is it going to actually move it, or is it going to keep a copy in the inbox as well?
Are we talking about iCloud or Gmail?
iCloud. Well, you can answer both, I guess.
Well, Gmail, there's a checkbox that says skip the inbox. So that one's easy.
Okay.
Over on iCloud, it actually does move it to the inbox. It doesn't earn it to the mailbox of your choice. It does not leave a copy in the inbox. You don't even have to tell it to skip it. But the part that's a little misleading or that doesn't do what you want it to do, I heard you talking about if it said Mac Training, forward it to me. But guess what? It's going to forward it to me, but it's still going to leave a copy in your inbox.
Okay. And that would make sense, because if you're forwarding it, you might want to still have a copy. I can see where maybe someday there'll be a choice, but I can see what you're saying. So if it's move it to a different folder, it's actually going to move it. But if it's forwarded, it's going to have it in both places then. Now, do I have to create, Cliff, a separate rule for each of the, like if I say if the subject contains, and then I wanted to say recipe, food, ingredients, dinner, do I have to have a separate rule for each of those things?
No, you can just put all that is in the contains.
Do I just have to put commas to separate them then? So
I actually don't know that part because I've never done it that way. But I mean, I'm assuming not, because when you create it, when it says contains, there's no verbiage that says it has to be separated by a dash, a hyphen, a comma, or anything like that. So I think you can just write the words out with a space, because if you run them together, it's going to think it's all one word.
Well,
but if you separate it with a space, I think you'll be fine. I've never done it that way. I've always just gone with the subject line or from.
Right.
Or even to.
Was there anything else that I missed or got wrong that we need to address before we go to questions?
No, but the one thing I did want to point out is that if they buy a domain through a third party, like Universe, like we did, or network solutions like we did, okay, those are going to be actual websites that you already pointed out. But if they go through Cloudflare, which is somebody who's partnered with Apple, as you know, that I just picked one up here a couple of weeks ago that you helped me out with, those domains are going to have different prices. But again, those are actually not websites. Those are just domains. So you
Right.
can have at mattvulbridge.com or at potalk.com, and it's just going to be an email address. It's not going to be an actual website that's hosted. But
Right.
the one thing that's significant about that is those Cloudflare domains, depending on what they're at, .com, .net, .edu. Well, they wouldn't use edu because that's for university, but they actually have ones that are at XYZ and some stuff that I've never seen before. But anyway,
Right.
the point that I'm getting at is they're all different prices. Because I've seen them as high as $50 and I've seen them as low as $4.99. So you just have to make sure you pick the one that you want and that you're happy with, and at the price that you're happy with. Because like I said,
Right.
I got lucky. Mine was only $10 a year, but there were
Right.
some that were 39, 49, even 59 for
Right.
the year, depending on where they're at. .org was the most expensive one, of course, because it's an organization, is what that stands for. So,
Yeah.
but yeah. But
Yep.
that's
So
about it. But
it
no, other than that, you got everything else right. And the one thing that nobody would know unless they tried it is, say you created the tech juggernaut, which you have at iCloud.com, and you said one day, you know what, I don't even need this. I'm just gonna delete it. And you came back 6 months later, you could actually create that again and it would still be available, because once you create it, it's assigned to your Apple ID whether you delete it or not. You could actually create an alias in its place, delete it, wait 7 days, and come back and create the tech juggernaut at iCloud.com again, and it'll still be available, because once you create it, it's yours for life pretty much. If you delete it, you can delete it twice and come back and recreate it with the exact same spelling. The only reason I know this is because there was an instance where I needed to reset my password, and of course they wanted to have access to the email address that I had before. I said, well, it was an alias. Let me just try it, and it worked. I was able to reset my password and then delete that alias again. So
That's cool. That's good to know. And so you can have three active at a time, but technically you could delete. Essentially, it's turning one off, but delete one, and then you could create another one in its place for a while, or whatever you wanted to do. Then, and of
and then
course,
come back
those.
to it. Yep.
But I only use Gmail, and I would like to know if you can give me a little bit more explanation in how can I also get an iCloud so I can have two addresses.
Okay.
How do I
Well,
do
yeah. So, first of all, welcome. Glad to have you. I don't think we've ever met before, but nice to talk
that?
with you. And certainly, if we can do anything to help you with the finding the right iPad or whatever, that's what we do. You can give us a call. But creating an iCloud address, um, I'm assuming since you have an iPhone that you have an Apple ID. Is that right?
Mm, the Apple ID is with my Gmail.
Okay, and that's fine. That's fine. So what you'll do, and you can do it even now on your iPhone. You don't have to wait for the iPad, or you can if you want. But what
Mm-hmm.
you'll do is you'll go to settings and you'll go to your name, which is on the upper left of the screen, and tap on your name.
Mm-hmm.
That brings up all the Apple ID information, and you are a voiceover user.
Yes, I'm
Okay.
totally blind. Yes.
Okay, so you'll swipe over to iCloud once you've selected your. Well, let me back up. Once you've selected your name,
Mm-hmm.
if you're doing it on your iPhone, you'll swipe over to iCloud. If you're doing it on an iPad, you'll touch the right side of the screen first and then swipe. And you'll swipe to the right until you hear iCloud, and you'll double
Okay.
tap on that to open it. At that
Mm-hmm.
point, it's going to have a whole list of things that are using different apps that are using iCloud, and one of them is going to say iCloud Mail. And if you double tap on iCloud Mail, it's going
Mm-hmm.
to give you the option to set up. If you've never done it, you will turn it on where it says use on this iPhone or use on this iPad. And it will, if you've never set that up, it'll ask you, do you want to create an iCloud.com email address? I may have the verbiage wrong, but that's the gist of it. Do you want to create
Mm-hmm.
one right
Sure.
now? And so then it will
Okay.
let you enter a username, which is the part of the email address before the @ sign. So you'll pick whatever you want, and assuming that
Mm-hmm.
it's available, then that will become at iCloud.com your iCloud email address. And yes, you can definitely use both of them. The iCloud one will be already set up then, and then the Gmail one, when you get your iPad, you just have to add that one, which is very straightforward because under your mail settings, you can just add an account and
Oh,
choose
that's the way
Google,
you add them. Oh,
and it's
okay.
real easy
So
to do. So, yep.
I see. Oh, got it. And then how do I access both? Once I am, checking my emails and my incoming emails and everything, and I want to switch
Yeah.
from one
So
to, how
you'll
do you
have
go to
two
those mailboxes?
you'll have two different options for that. Um, if you're like me and you want to see all of them together, you just choose all inboxes, and then that way
Okay.
you're always in someplace that will show you both. If you want
Mm-hmm.
to see one or the other, you just have to go to the mailboxes list. So on your iPhone, at the top left, there'll be
Mm-hmm.
something that says mailboxes back button. On your iPad, it's the sidebar. It's where we say show
Yeah, yeah.
sidebar
Mm-hmm.
in the mail app, and then you pick the mailbox you want. So you'll have both accounts there, and you'll see that there's an inbox for iCloud and an inbox for Gmail. You can view
Oh.
those individually if you prefer to, or if you just
Mm-hmm.
choose all inboxes, that's the universal one that will give you all the mail that comes into both or either of the accounts.
And that option is right there, right, on the mailboxes,
Yes,
where
yes,
you,
that's one of the
when you,
options under the mailboxes. Yes.
when you hit edit, that's where I can select it.
Yes, you can select it once you hit edit, but you probably won't even have to hit edit because
No.
usually all inboxes is there by default. If it's not showing up in
Oh.
the list of mailboxes, then yes, absolutely hit edit and then just turn it on by selecting it and then hit done. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. But specifically the emails that come to the Gmail, or specifically the emails that will go to the iCloud, it depends who sent them, right? They're not gonna get mixed up or anything like that.
No, they're not going to
They're
get
gonna
mixed up.
be
You can always view them independently, and when you choose to reply,
uh-huh.
by default, the reply is going to come from whichever mail address they sent it to also. So yeah. Yep.
Okay. They will receive them separately. It depends who I provide these email addresses to.
Exactly. Have a great rest of your week and a great weekend, everybody, and we will see you next week.
Thanks for joining today's session. Didn't get your question answered? Want a free consultation or some paid one-on-one training? Email us at support@ttjtech.biz or support@stiritup.com. And remember, stir is spelled with a U. That's STURITUP.com. Or check out our websites for additional free resources. That's ttjtech.biz or stiritup.com. I'm Trainer Cliff. Thanks for joining us. God bless. See you next time.